In the fall of 2016, we bought a sailboat. I've sailed all my life, but until then I'd never owned a boat before. Me and my wife Lena had sailed on small boats for years, and now we needed something with room for a growing family, but cheap enough that we could afford to keep her, and so we found Marella. She's a 30-foot Albin Ballad, a dream to sail and small enough to maintain on a small budget. This is a record of our time with her, from DIY projects and maintenance to our experiences and adventures. My name is Andy, and this is the story of one small ship. November 2019. Marella has been sitting on the hard for most of the past year. Life throws you curveballs sometimes, and I've had neither the time nor the energy to spend on her. It feels good to be back here again, but I feel bad for leaving her for so long. As a pure spur-of-the-moment thing, I decide to pick up my phone and start shooting video. The cabin is a giant mess, and the cockpit is littered with scrap pieces of wood. The propane gas installation I was working on is only half finished. The cockpit seats and lockers are covered in teak. It's an aftermarket solution put in by a previous owner, and they haven't exactly done the best job. I don't know to what extent it will need replacing, but I know I can't leave it like this. I start by removing the deck hardware. There's decades of grit and moisture hiding underneath. I scrape off the worst of it and thoroughly clean the wood before inspecting it.
Finally, I get to remove this old crap that somebody stuck in here. It's gonna be so nice when it's done. Alright, so I dug out this seam, and this is what came out. This is just spongy, wet teak. So yeah, these planks definitely need to go. That sucks. But I was kind of expecting that. So there are two sets of bungs in each plank. Here, here, here. Probably these holes are the original holes, and these ones were put in later when the deck started to come loose. This seam is very narrow, so I can't get a sanding tool in there, and I'm not sure why, but I guess these planks might have been replaced. These final 3 planks might have been replaced at some point. These ones, I mean, this has a split in it as well. That has a split in it over there, so those might come out anyway. It's not amazing, but we work with what we have.
I drill out the screws holding the teak in place one by one. I worry I won't have the skill to replace the material if I screw up, so I try to damage as little as possible. There was a knot in my stomach when I started, but as I go, it starts to feel easier.
take a look at this. I'm in the process of cleaning up, but I got this piece out and it was just soaked. There was water in a puddle down here, and I cleaned a little bit of it up because it was just so janky and yucky and it smelled, and I just wanted to get rid of it. This bit is still wet here, so I'm gonna have to remove that, see if the next one is wet too, and I'll just keep going, and maybe we'll just take out the whole front of the cockpit, which will be a lot of fun, so yeah. So Monday the 11th of November, and I've gone to town on the teak and the cockpit. I've torn out most of it, but underneath the teak I found this. This is just an extension that somebody bolted in. It's plywood and it's just coming apart just looking at it. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove that, and in the spring I'm going to glass in a new piece that's going to more or less become part of the deck. This came out in one piece. Some of it I had to remove forcibly and got destroyed in the process. This bit that goes here, that came out in one piece, lovely as well. I was worried that these holes would have let moisture in, but there's no core in this. This is solid fiberglass. It's going to be very easy to drill these out and fill them and make it all perfectly serviceable, and put new teak on top, and the new teak is going to be glued down, not screwed, so there will be no screw holes. Everything will be lovely. No screws that are going to start creeping out, no bungs that are going to come out, no water's going to leak into the deck. It's going to be beautiful.
It's the middle of November and the temperature outside is too low for epoxy work, so I'm going to have to shelve the teak project until spring. I head home and leave Marella over the holidays. When I return, it's early February and I have another project lined up. Back in October, I ordered a cheap diesel heater online, and it's time to start installing it.
So it's February the 13th. I've just come down to the boat for the first time since November, and it's still pretty cold, but nice sunny day. So what I've been doing lately is I've been looking at my upcoming heater installation. I've got one of those cheap Chinese heaters, diesel heaters, that I'm going to install, and that is going to happen right here in the aft locker of the boat. So I've emptied everything out of the aft locker, and here are the connections for the hoses for the cockpit drains. And these cables are my old VHF and GPS cable. I'm going to remove those and put them back in a better position. This is for the stern lantern, and underneath here is where the heater is going to go. Now this thing here, and I assume that's for separating water so that the water doesn't get into the heater. I can turn it, but when I try to turn it and screw it off, it bangs into the side of this tab here. So I don't know quite how to get that out. I think I'm going to have to go at it with an angle grinder. Alright, so after a bit of struggling, I've managed to complete the new hoses for the cockpit drains and the bilge pump. So it remains to get rid of the old cables for the GPS and the VHF, and also the stern light, sort that out somehow, and then we can start to think about how to mount the heater.
Sometimes things don't exactly go to plan, and the rest of February turns out to be the coldest in years. I order a length of higher quality pipe and the silencer for the heater exhaust, and wait for warmer weather. As April comes round, I can feel my energy returning. I'm feeling motivated and ready to take on some real work again. My steps feel lighter, and my confidence is growing. So this is the current situation in the cockpit. working on the seats and lockers, and here in the front I've managed to get all the old teak out. I've slapped on a generous amount of epoxy to fill in all the old holes and crap that was there. The rear locker right now, with all the old caulking gone, it's getting ready to get recaulked. The locker on this side is done. You can see the new caulking. It's good enough, I think. It'll do. Alright, so now inside the aft locker there is some new stuff. This is the Chinese diesel heater that is now in place, and I've started to mount the exhaust. Comes up here in a swan neck and out to the exhaust outlet, which is replaced, and that goes on that side. And then behind here, right there is a T connector. The lower part will drain any water that comes in through the inlet out through the cockpit drain down here, and the top part will go into the heater for the air intake. Hopefully that's going to work out fine. Alright, back in the boat. It's the 2nd of April. Yesterday was beautiful, blue skies, not much wind. Today it's blowing maybe 12 to 15 meters per second. It's ice cold outside, so I don't really feel like doing any work outside the boat today. Of course, what better project to spend a day on than getting some heat inside the boat when the weather is cold like this. So I'm using the tank that came with the heater. These pieces will sit back here, one like that, one like that, and I'll drill holes through them, and that should work as standoffs. So that'll do. Just make sure that's centered. That looks good enough to me. This doesn't have to be centered or anything. It's not important. The important bit is that the distance between the holes is the same. That might just work. Let's see if I can find a shorter one. But yeah, so I'll find some of these bolts, and I'll find the nuts for them, and some washers, and we'll be ready to drill the holes for this as soon as it clears up. In the meantime, I've got a few other projects to work on, so onwards and upwards.
I spent some time tidying up the cabin. At some point, a previous owner has installed a heater and the old tube is still in place, so I take the opportunity to remove it. Finally, I decide to brave the elements and head out into the cockpit to install the fuel tank for the diesel heater.
The rain has stopped. It's sunny outside, but cold and windy, but you know, I'm sure it's lovely and cozy in the aft locker. So let's go and have a look in there.
So at this point, I'd like to say that I started shooting this material with my phone camera and no external microphone, so these early videos contain a fair amount of wind noise. What you're about to hear is quite horrible, and I apologize. As I've learned to shoot better video and got myself better equipment, the raw footage quality has improved. I hope you'll stick around to see that. And if you do like this video and want more, please leave a like below and consider subscribing to the channel. Thank you.
Well, it is rather windy. I think I might not want to climb in there today, but the idea is to take this and mount it right in there. So that's what I'm going to do. I think that's going to be fine. There we are. Alright. Now I just need to put the diesel tank on top of that. Popped in. Stick that through. Plenty of space for the spacer and the nuts to go on top of that. I can suspend the fuel pump over here somewhere on a 45-degree angle or something. I think it's supposed to be angled. It's just a matter of whether the stand-up is. That is the sound of success.
I spent a couple of hours that day bent over like that into the aft locker, and I absolutely do not recommend this position for working long periods. So please don't do what I do here. Take care of yourself. Stay tuned for the next part of our journey, and thank you so much for watching. Fair winds.